Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, comrades! So how did your December celebration go this year? Did you send your letter to Kim? What do you mean which Kim? The one that obviously come to mind when you hear ho ho ho. Kim Jong-un, the grandmother of Kim Jong-un. For more than half of the planet, this sounds like a joke. But in North Korea, December 24th is officially celebrated as the birthday of the grandmother of the glorious supreme leader. You know those movies where two kids have to save Christmas? They failed in North Korea. Public celebration of Christmas has been banned for decades, and Christmas practice, non-controlled by the states, are documented cause for arrest, interrogation, detention, and deportation. If a power wants to control the people, it distrusts spontaneous gatherings, even if we're talking about flying reindeers or a child born in Bethlehem, because Christmas says there is a power that is not violence. Reports indicate that in private, Christmas groups still celebrate a whisper phrase, a candle, a prayer. Herod failed to stop that birth, and yet many tried to stop Christmas. Let's see some of the Grinch labs of history. First Grinch lab, Puritan England, 17th century. A reformed theology that reads the scriptures like a notary. Christmas, not prescribed in the New Testament, is not welcome there. The political context can explain how this even became a law. Henry, King of England, is married, but has no male heir. So he panics and asks the Pope, hey, can we annul the marriage? And the Pope replies, no way, bro, that'd be a mess. Okay, lol, no problem. And in 1534, he proclaims himself head of the Church of England, marries again, and has the wife beheaded. Then the conflict shifts to what the Church of England should actually be. The Puritan faction gains ground, and in 1647, an ordinance abolishes Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost. Traditionally, English Christmas was indeed a season of exceptions and excesses. Food, alcohol, song, masquerades, games. Puritans saw it as a form of authorized disorder, something that loosened discipline, and discipline for them should apply at all times. So comes bans on celebrations, bans on holy ivy, on carols, pressures on shopkeepers to stay open. In short, Fahrenheit 451 and Saving Christmas merge into one absurd holiday movie. Everything collapses though when the ban reaches the plum pudding, a dense, dark, alcoholic, caloric dessert that takes weeks to prepare, the pinnacle of English cuisine. To the Puritan eye, pudding is idolatry of the belly, waste, sin. Thus begins the plum pudding riots. Picture it, people in the streets, armed, not with weapons, worse, with English food. As to say, Christmas still stands, pudding holds the ground. So the pudding survived, and Christmas too, and in 1660 it returned to public life. Second Grinch lab, the Enlightenment and the French Revolution. Between 1750 and 1790 in France, Prussia, and Austria, the state takes on the task of producing citizens aligned with a new moral order and the new gods, law, public morality, and the nation. To legitimize this, an imaginary past is constructed, Middle Ages of superstition, violence, and ignorance. The witch hunts, which in fact peaked between the 16th and 17th centuries in modern states, equipped with courts and administrative apparatuses, are retroactively assigned to the Middle Ages. Ius prime noctis, the supposed right of a lord to sleep with a subject bride, is presented as a feudal institution despite never having existed as a legal norm. And later the Iron Maiden, a spied cage, is passed off as a medieval torture device when in fact the 19th century created it to tell scary tales of the dark Middle Ages. And Voltaire's anti-clerical critique and Diderot's encyclopedia reduced centuries of history to a handful of sensational anecdotes. While the Middle Ages are accused of often imaginary tortures and obscurantism, the Age of Reason perfects the guillotine and manufacturing history, a conscious lie whose ghost still follows us, governing the present by controlling the story of the past. And in fact, in 1793 comes the idea of rewriting the calendar, starting from year one to say, history starts here, bro. Deal with it. The week is stretched to the rational length of 10 days, one day off every 10. Saints disappear from the calendar, replaced by flowers, tools, agricultural phases, hollow symbols, a bit like Christmas in the public squares today. Thus, we get the spectacular Festival of Reason, with a woman in classical dress placed on the altar of a converted church. The extraordinary Festival of the Republic, dedicated to the state, nation, the law, and civic unity. And finally, the glorious Festival of the Supreme Being, desired by Robespierre himself, mascot of an era that talked about blades more than a Gillette commercial, who basically says, "Suck it, losers, morality has a new boss." The Supreme Being, in fact, was not a god, but a non-divine idea of morality that conveniently coincided with the political values of the moment. To live in the new time meant internalizing who rules and which worldview is approved. Despite everything, people kept baptizing, praying, celebrating in secret, and the pressure eased under Napoleon. Third Grinch Lab, the USSR. When Marx says religion is the opium of the people, he is making an observation. Religion consoles. But the true Bolshevik knows only the party really understands you. So in 1929, the Soviet states abolished religious holidays. After all, you don't need a god who listens to you. The KGB already does that. After an initial phase of open war against trees, song, and babies in cradles, the strategy changes. Forces dropped, and everything gets unified under New Year's celebration. New Year's tree, New Year's gift. Santa Claus is replaced by Grandfather Frost and the Snow Maiden, Dad Mroz and Sneguchka. Gifting becomes a civic activity, celebration in schools, worker clubs, state-run houses of culture, and indoctrination, entertainment. The promise of the socialist future is celebrated, and the religious context erased. And yet, liturgical Christmas survived on the margins, and after 1991, it resurfaced. Yes, Christmas resists. I think of the spontaneous Christmas truce, 1914. Soldiers without orders. They leave the trenches, they sing, they bury the dead together. They play football together, even if only for one day. Christmas did something that seemed impossible. It made war disappear. What happened the year after? High commands banned fraternization and tightened discipline. Today, two hyenas circle the same prey: consumerism and a certain repressive progressivism. A kind of neo-Puritan secularism that claims to reinvent humanity by intervening on the symbols and burns you at the stake of social isolation if you don't stare at the same future. More than enemies, they are competitors over the same body. The first hyena hates silence and hates meaning. It fills everything with objects, light, noises, because without emptiness, there is no waiting. Without waiting, no space for hope. Without silence, no gratitude. And those who are grateful and hopeful buy less. Guy Debord said, the spectacle does not repress, it absorbs. It is a refined form of censorship. The second hyena fears ancient symbols because they carry meanings that protect the identity of a culture. And whoever wants to rebuild society from scratch cannot tolerate symbols that they didn't alter. Modernity empties things out. The loss is not immediate, it goes unnoticed for a while. The shell holds like an apple with intact skin and rotten core. It's like moving from home cooking with fresh market ingredients chosen for the smell. It's convenient, then it's an habit. And little by little you forget the recipes of your childhood and find yourself at a self-checkout with a cart full of Hot Pockets. Christmas affirms that there is a time that does not exist to produce. Power that does not obey force. It marks time and carries symbol. It carries ancient meaning. Time and symbols and the unmeasurable shape the image of the world, the form of a culture, and all of this is a problem for power. Yet, even this year, Christmas resisted. And it will resist next year, as it resisted under Cromwell, under the Jacobins, under Stalin, because you cannot defeat the birth of a child, the light that returns, the promise of a new spring, the hope of tomorrow. To that child, born despite Herod, to that light that returns every year, to you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And remember, pray strong, pilgrims.